My name is Dear Endsley, and this is my theory presentation about Eleanor Gibson's ecological theory of perceptual development. Here is some relevant contextual information important to the theory. Eleanor Gibson was born in 1910 and died in 2000. She attended college, received her PhD, and was a research assistant at Cornell University. She married James Gibson, a fellow psychologist, that helped her develop the ecological approach to perception. Her early work was in the 50s and 60s, and according to the article, The Woman Behind the Visual Cliff, she faced some gender discrimination, which led to her studying animals instead of humans first. This is where she discovered the visual cliff experiment that eventually was tested with human infants, leading her to further her research with perceptual development. Our textbook hails her theory as an alternative to the approaches of Piaget and the learning theory that are still widely known today. According to the article, Eleanor J. Gibson and the visual cliff phenomenon, the ecological theory of development, emphasized how important perception was because it allows humans to adapt to their environments. Perhaps her most well-known contribution to psychology was the visual cliff, which studied depth, perception, and visual or motor impairments in both humans and animal species. The theory concerns perception broadly and addresses the mystery of the interaction between children and their ever-changing environments. When Eleanor was researching, she asked 4 questions. 1. What do infants and children perceive? 2. How do they pick up this information? 3. What actions or interactions take place? And 4. What are the consequences for knowledge? Gibson explored and addressed these questions in 4 main ways. 1. The ecological approach. 2. The notion that information for perception is specified in stimulation. 3. The active nature of human perceivers. And 4. Ecological methods. The main concept she explored was affordances, what the environment gives to us and how we use it. Gibson's theory followed foundational developmental psychology approaches, but was different in one way. She tried to maintain validity in the ecological realm by making her experimental settings as close to the natural environment of children as possible. They did this through 3 avenues. 1. Multimodal stimulation. An example of this is faces that move and make sound and objects that can be touched. 2. Locomotion support. An example of this is solid or non-solid surfaces. And 3. Feedback opportunities to compare and contrast the future outcomes. According to Gibson's theory, perceptual development and learning happen through play and exploration activities. The ability to filter out irrelevant information in order to focus on one task, and the maturation that helps lead to new affordances and skills. Her perceptual view of children helped shape her stance on developmental issues. Like Piaget, Gibson believed that people are capable and motivated to actively explore and make sense of the world around them. Stimulation is key to this exploration and helps specify the information available to be perceived. Her ecological stance on the discussion of qualitative versus quantitative development is that this facet is not stage-like and not mainly qualitative. Finally, her ecological stance on the discussion of nature versus nurture was that they are intertwined and both impactful. They fit together and produce an efficient, adapted, perceptual system. In her theory, she identifies what Miller describes as the 4 hallmarks of human behavior that develop. They are 1. Agency, which is simply self-control. 2. Prospectivity, which is the future-oriented behaviors. 3. The search for order and patterns to help children make sense of the world. And finally, flexibility, the ability to adjust to changes. Common applications of Gibson's theory of perceptual development are shown to the essential task of perceiving letters and sounds when children are learning to read, and by helping preschool teachers decide what material to use to promote active learning. Perceptual learning, according to Miller, is also essential for children's safety and health and can help them avoid accidents. Finally, the strengths and weaknesses of this theory are that it has a wider focus on how perception and what children do serves an everyday context, not just the impact it has on industry. Like Smith explains in our textbook, children are active participants and not just bystanders. The main weakness that Miller points out is that this theory blurs the distinction between perception and cognition. Overall, her theory was influential and is the most well-known perceptual developmental theory. Here are my references on slides 10 and 11. Thank you for listening to my theory presentation.